Okay, so I'm gonna do another recording here with my friend Kristen Davenport. I was trying to get this to go live again and coming across some more tech issues, so I promise I'll get it. You guys, I will get this eventually live stream. But yeah, thanks Kristen for coming on with me today. It's great to have you. It's great to see you.
I'm excited to be on today and to talk about life stuff, spiritual stuff, whatever stuff comes up.
Yeah, and Kristen and I have known each other for a little while, right? I think like a couple years now.
Yeah, two years sounds about right.
Although it seems like I've known you way longer though.
It does. That's why I was like, two makes sense, but it also feels like, maybe even like a
10.
decade. All the things that we've gone through together and witnessed and experienced with each other. Feels like
Yeah, because let's see, when I first met you, Kristen, I think I was still living in Colorado at that time.
Yes.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure it was like 2019 summer-ish. Yeah, sometime around then. Yeah, but a lot has happened.
Those 2 years, absolutely.
A lot has happened. I feel like the past 2 years has been like several lifetimes for me. I don't know if you feel that way.
Yeah, for me as well. I mean, just this year alone has felt like it is, I mean, it's gone by really fast, but the amount of things that have happened, it's almost like, how is it possible that all of that can be squeezed into such a short time span? Just feels like this really big, giant pressure cooker sometimes. It's like, where's the like release valve on this thing? Um,
I don't think there is one.
yeah, definitely. There's not. Surprise, there isn't one.
I don't think so. I think now it's like, no, we're just pressure cooking right now. That's kind of what's happening.
The Instapot or whatever, the new thing
Uh-huh.
is.
We're just
Now it's
pressure
Instapot.
cooking. And I think you know, eventually we'll be able to release that valve, but I don't think that's going to be anytime soon, personally.
It doesn't seem like it at all. The more people I talk to in astrology and things of that nature, can show based on all of that, which I'm not even going to try to summarize. But yeah, like this trend that we're experiencing in energy just got here and it's not going anywhere for several years, up to even like 10 years. So like this next like decade, that's just going to be a lot of pressure cooking, but also a lot of good opportunities for us to really just allow things to unfold and do our best to trust the universe and our intuition and really just like have a ton of compassion for ourselves as we move through that.
Yeah, and the compassion piece can be really challenging sometimes for me, personally. Because I always try to come back to that. And I think after living most of my life, I think I've always been somewhat compassionate as a person, just as my personality is that way. But it's the really challenging situations where it's sometimes difficult to come back to that compassion, where maybe you're interacting with energies or a person or an event's taking place and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is just so intense, and I know there's no right or wrong or good or bad or anything like that, but in those super intense moments it can be challenging to come into that compassion space.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and if we're not challenged, we're not pressured in that pressure cooker to push forward, to change and to grow. And so even though challenges can be really difficult and feel really heavy, and it seems like, sometimes the challenges just get more and more difficult and more messy to move through. And it is hard to have compassion for ourselves sometimes during that because we just want it to stop. like I've been this way for 2 weeks or 2 years or however long it is. And we just like focus on the how do I get out of it instead of how can I be present with it in this moment. And it's really hard because we're still human. We're still feeling, even if we are taking a step back and being more of the observer in our situation, like we're still human beings and we're still going to feel those emotions. We can observe them as much as we want, but we've still got to feel them too. Like it's not like, I think there's a big misconception that like if you do enough of the work, like the inner work, you get to this place where life is great and you never are challenged again. And that's not the case. Like we're constantly challenged, but we can like get practice at like moving through it with more grace and ease each time. And I fell into that a lot this year. Is it's like I'll be doing good for like a few days to even a few weeks. And like, I'm not triggered as easily. And I'm like, oh, I've arrived. Like I've done it. Like I've done all the work. And then it's like a couple days later, I'm like, crying and I'm really angry about stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, well, I'm still human. I don't get exempt like a, get out of human free card or something like that. Get out of being a human being free card or
No,
anything like that.
no. And it's so funny because I've witnessed some people talk about being at this place, like having arrived at this place. I'm like, I don't know, where is it? I'm curious where you're talking about. And I don't really think that there is a place that to get to. I think that this is a continuous process. I think that, the process of healing is it's kind of like a lifetime commitment. And, because there's always more layers and there's always deeper to go. And I'm always a little bit skeptical of these people that say that they're healed and say that they've reached this like point where they have no more healing work to do, because we literally have thousands of years of our ancestors through, epigenetics having, inherited a lot of these traumas and memories. Like, you mean to tell me that you've healed all of that stuff from the past? Really? I don't know. I don't really buy it, but if that's what, if that's what makes them comfortable and that's where they're at and that's their story, then I have to respect where they're at also.
Yeah, and there's a difference between getting to a place where you're like completely healed or feel completely healed and a place where you've just developed enough self-compassion and love to just move through things more gently, so you don't have to have the huge challenges that just like jerk the rug out from under you and you're like standing in the middle of the air or whatever, and things get easier and there is more joy in that. But the biggest key that I have found is when we stop searching and trying so hard to get to that place, we realize we're already there. Like we've already arrived. And that I feel like is the beauty and like the goal of this life, is to be so fully in the present moment that that place we're trying to get to doesn't even matter because we're already there. And it doesn't mean that the present moment, like we're not going to be sad or we're not going to be angry, but we're just in it so much that, we think about like children, like within 5 minutes, they can experience all the emotions and they're not trying to resist it. They can cry and be mad at you because you won't let them have dessert, or something. And then like a few seconds later, like they're playing and they're happy. And then like their brother hits them and then they're angry again. And it's just, they just flow and they dance.
So yeah, they just flow. And I've been noticing that that's been improving in myself, where situations that, if this had happened to me even just 2 years ago, like what we were talking about, or 5 years ago, or however long, a previous version of myself, maybe I'd be, um, going straight into panic mode, ton of anxiety, panic attacks, nightmares, all of that PTSD slash CPTSD symptoms I used to live on a daily basis, and going into that fight or flight mode where my nervous system is all kinds of crazy and, um, maybe even like suicidal thoughts and all of that, right? And does it still hurt? Is it still difficult? Am I still like working through a lot of like intense emotions? Yes. But I'm able to move through it with more ease and grace. I'm able to move through it more quickly. It's taking less time. Like I really allow myself to sit. I don't, in the past, I would have tried to distract as much as possible and numb out and use all my different coping mechanisms, drinking and drugs and all of these different things that I used to use. And then a little bit of time would pass and then it would just get like pushed down further and
Mhm.
further and it wasn't actually dealt with, right? Now, actually allowing my inner child to speak to me and actually allowing myself to sit and to feel however I feel and to be okay with that and to actually to share that with people. It helps to actually allow yourself to feel it and acknowledge it. It helps to, in that process of moving through it much more quickly.
It can be so hard. It can be so hard to sit still with those feelings. And sometimes I think we feel like if we start crying, we don't know if we'll be able to stop. Or if we really allow ourselves to experience, the depth of the anger that we're carrying with us, we'll never be happy again. And we'll just stay in that angry state. But emotions, like it's just the energy and motion, they're supposed to move in and through us. And they teach us about ourselves and they teach us about situations. Like, anger is to help you with boundaries, for example. And, it's just, but yeah, it can be really hard to sit. And occasionally, sometimes when the emotions do come on really, really strong and we're not in a good headspace, like it's okay every now and then, sure, to distract yourself with something. But if we're always going for the distraction, and also like even if we're using a strategy to like help us through it, like let's say we're slowing down and we're doing yoga, like sometimes if we have the expectation that doing yoga is like automatically going to make us feel better, and then the yoga doesn't make us feel better, like, we're like, oh, well, now what? But, it's not, not always having the expectation that this is going to make me feel better, but this is, going to help me move through it just a little bit more. And you may not feel like, okay, I'm done with whatever this is I was sitting with. It may still be there. That's okay too. It's just, healing is not linear and nobody can really tell you how to heal you. You can watch a ton of classes, you can get really good tips and things, but I like to think of it as, this life is like a practice, like you're learning and you're doing things, but nothing is ever set in stone. Like meditation doesn't work for you, don't do it. Even if every class you watch for months is talking about, oh, meditation, but you like doing the tapping thing, like do that. Like I'm the opposite. I'll meditate and do yoga, but I don't really like the tapping. And it's like, whatever works for you, and having really good support system and friends that you can lean on when things do get really bad and you do get in those headspaces where you feel like you're spiraling and need a little bit of like somebody to help you get out of it.
Yes, oh my gosh. And that's why like I'm so blessed and thankful for people like you in my life and um
Likewise.
some of the other incredible friends that I've made that, actually do offer healthy support. Um and maybe we can talk a little bit more about that, like what that healthy support looks like, because for most of my life I did not have that.
Mm.
And it wasn't until I started to meet people that were also doing work and in those more in healthier places and starting to actually like take responsibility for themselves, like, like yourself. That's when I was like, oh, wow, okay, like there are other people doing this too, and we can support each other and show up for each other. And yeah, but there might be people watching who they don't have that support and they don't know what that looks like. So yeah, I'd love to talk more about that. Maybe get into,
Sure.
what that looks like.
Yeah.
Um,
So, mhm.
so even like, go ahead. I can tell you're about to say something.
It's like, in my experience, it can be hard to find like real support where people are able to do more of the what we call space holding and like the non-judgmental awareness. So for example, I do my best, I'm not perfect. I do my best to, like, for example, if we're talking, like, I really try to just listen. I may not agree with everything you're saying. I may not even understand everything you're saying. I may not be able to relate to anything you're saying at all, but I do my best to listen without judgment at all. And unless asked, I don't offer advice. It's more of just doing things like, I'm sorry you're going through such a hard time. I hope it gets better for you. Or, I'm sorry you're dealing with this. Thank you for sharing with me. Let me know how I can help you. And things like that. And sometimes, just having somebody genuinely be heard is all they really need. And then they can move through it themselves. Or sometimes just asking good questions, to help, the friend. But ultimately, it's just listening. And I feel like, especially if we're really strong empaths, we have that, like, we want to fix because we can feel how sad they feel or how, like, unsettled they are. And so we go into fix it mode and just start bombarding the person with advice so that they can feel better, so we can feel better. And that's
Right.
coming from like a selfish place. Like, I might feel her uncomfortableness, but I don't have to take it on as my responsibility to, like, do anything with. I can just, see Leigh and her pain and, hold space for her as she moves through that. I feel like the biggest part is just that, advice, especially when you don't ask for it.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think that's one of the main reasons why people tend to give the unsolicited advice is because they're uncomfortable, right? It's because they have this person showing up and they're sad or they're angry and they're going through like a really tough time and it's making the other person really uncomfortable. Um, Maybe also that's how they learn to show love, right? Maybe that's what they think that love is. Maybe that's what they think support is. And, you know, I have some relationships in my life where this is still an ongoing thing, and I have to like repetitively set those boundaries. And part of it, it's difficult when you've been doing it for such a long time. And if you're a person who's not, you're not as introspective, you're not, taking the responsibility to do your inner work, you might not understand and you're like, oh well, I'm just trying to help. And that also comes from like the ego thinking that really that's what it is like your ego thinks that you know best and that you know better. And when we come to this understanding, like what you were talking about, knowing that each person knows what's best for them, like that's one of the most important teachings in my journey. The things that I've learned is that every person knows what's best for them. And we have to trust that. And we have to trust where they are on their journey. And yeah, so there's been, a few times where I've like slipped into that fixing mode, like there's been a couple times where I've slipped back in there and then I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm so sorry. And then I take responsibility for it and I own it. I'm like, I'm so sorry I did that. I was not meaning to overstep. But like, yeah, it's something that if it's so ingrained that you've been doing it for so long, yeah, maybe sometimes you'll automatically go into that mode, but then just like recognizing it and being like, oh, okay, no, like I'm gonna try to do better with that, because I know for me, and everyone's different, some people really like the advice. Like when they're going through something, some people really like that, and that's great. But yeah, I typically don't like the unsolicited advice. If I want advice, I will ask for it. Um, and I think it's also really important to sit down and figure out what it is that you need. Like, what does support look like for you? And if somebody, I think a great way to support a friend is to, like you said, to listen, then to show empathy, like I'm really sorry you're going through this. That sounds really tough, what you're going through. That must be really hard. Empathy, which a lot of people skip. And then asking, like, what do you need? What could I do to support you? And then if the person has actually, if the person knows, because some people just don't know because
Mhm.
they've never even thought about it. But
That's
like,
me a lot of times too. I'm like, okay, this person's asking how they can support me, but I don't even know what I need to do for me,
mhm,
so that can be difficult sometimes too, to really understand what support looks like um, in
yeah,
different ways.
yeah. And if it was like, I know times are a little bit different right now, but back in the day, I would have been like, hey, you want to go, like, let's go see a movie, or let's go out and do something to, like, get your mind off it.
Mhm. Yeah, right. Girls' night out. Like, let's
Girls'
go. We're doing
night
it.
out, woo!
Or girls' night in, pedicures,
Oh yeah.
manicures, whatever, just something. And I feel like that has been part of why the past couple years have been so much harder, is we're not having as much like one-on-one human interaction. Like everything's behind screens. And yes, like you can still transfer energy, and you can, the way energy works. Like, I mean, you can still receive like Reiki healing, for example, virtually, but there's still just like that component that's missing of like really just being physically present with people too. And even though like I have a great partner right now in my life and we spend time together, like I find myself still feeling lonely
Mm,
at times, because it's like so much of my day, like I'm just isolated and on like Facebook and Zoom. And I'm a teacher and we're at least back in the classroom now. And that, makes a huge difference. Like the students are doing so much better because they're getting that like physical presence of a teacher and they're not home with all the distractions. So yeah, I feel
yeah,
like that.
that's interesting. I was curious how that was for you, like going back to school with it being, because Kristen's a teacher. I don't think I mentioned that, but yeah, she's a teacher. Tell us what you teach and what grades and all that.
Yeah, so I wear a lot of different hats. My daytime, my like normal hat is I'm a high school science teacher. And so I teach physical science and earth science. And yeah, it's been really interesting being back. I was really nervous because I was like, I don't know, the kids are coming back. What's that going to be like? Are they going to, like be crazy? But I think they didn't realize how hungry they really were to be in person. They've been like, I mean, it's the best year I've ever had. The students are, doing their work and balancing that with like socializing, being really respectful, following all the rules. At least my students are with like, the mask stuff, because there's kids, they'll just walk around with them down here or, whatever. And it's just been really, like, really nice to just be in person again. I forgot how much I missed it as a teacher, like actually being physically present with my students. So it does make a difference. I know for me, I felt it was easier for me to be grounded when I had more support, like in physical, when I would go to like sacred fire events and like yoga classes and meditation groups that I would, go to like on a weekly basis. And now I'm just like, I don't do anything. And I'm tired of like doing everything on Zoom. I have like Zoom fatigue. So sometimes, even though they're offering all the same things on Zoom, I'm like, it's not the same. And I finally got to go to an ecstatic dance class in person like a week ago, and that was great too. So things are kind of shifting a little bit.
Yeah, and you're in North Carolina.
Yes, I
Just
know.
to give people an idea of where you are, because I know different states are a little different.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'm in Georgia, so in the general vicinity. Yeah, but I haven't, unfortunately, I haven't come across a lot of events in the community that I would be interested in going to. No ecstatic dance or anything like that. Sad panda. Um,
Yeah. They've been doing a lot of outdoor events and they finally hosted an indoor one. And there was maybe like 20 to 30 people there. So it's pretty
that's a
good
good
turnout.
number, and it's great that it's outdoors too. Yeah, I like going to outdoor events. Totally, I'm kind of past my days of going to indoor indoor events. Because I like, if I ever go to a concert, I like to be kind of like on the outskirts in the back,
Yeah.
like so I can like really like stretch out, and I have room. I can't be like in the crowds next to
Yeah,
people.
not anymore. I used to go to concerts all the time in college. and like try to, you know, push my way to like the front of the stage and be all in that. And yeah, not anymore.
Yeah.
Yes, you're really close to the musicians, but I feel like it's easier to really see the whole like thing from further back, and you can like breathe because you're not, you know, wedged like sardines between all the people, and just kind of chill and watch. But yeah, that's one thing I really miss is live music. Like
Yes.
really miss like, not that I went to that many concerts, but like knowing the opportunity was there, uh, you know, and yeah, like smaller, like local shows, even just, you know, like on a random night, some dude I've never heard of like playing at a restaurant, just little things like that I miss.
Yeah, live music. I miss that a lot. I was getting really excited because an artist that I really liked, they were on tour and I was gonna go this month, you know, and then they they
Yeah, it's
canceled.
awful.
And yeah, so you know, it'll, you know, eventually it'll work out. But we'll see. Like I know I have a ticket to a music festival next year. It's supposed to be in February, so
There you go.
we'll see what happens with it. But yeah, the in person is always better to me. In person is always better. I mean, the technology is great because like it allows me to, when I want to do these Zooms with people or these YouTube videos, you know, I can connect with anybody all over the world, right? And that's great. And like the technology is also convenient. Like earlier today, I was on WhatsApp talking to my friend who's living in India. You know, several years ago, I don't know how I would have done that. You
Yeah,
know,
that's been cool too, is so many things that weren't offered previously on Zoom are being offered on Zoom. So some people are doing like a local Reiki training, for example, but then they're also offering like an online version. So like if you resonate with someone who lives in a different state, and you can like attend their online Reiki stuff, and just, you know,
yeah.
it's opened up a lot of doors, and so many businesses now are like shifting to just doing everything online. But I hope teaching will still continue to be in person, because there's just so much more you get. And then, you know, they're not as shy to ask questions when I'm actually there, and they're more likely to be on task when I'm there. And
They're
yeah,
getting to socialize with their friends.
right. Instead of just being stuck with their like families all day,
Oh
every day.
gosh.
Yep.
Yeah, nobody wants that. Just kidding.
Even if you, it doesn't matter, even if you have like the best family ever and you love them, like you still need space.
Feel like, oh,
Just
you guys
like
are so
anything,
annoying.
just like any relationship, it just reaches a point where you're gonna need space. We
Yeah.
all do. It's healthy
Yeah,
boundaries.
totally. Like we all, and I think yeah, that's a really good lesson too that I've learned is we can't be with people all the time. Like we need, and I guess everyone's different, but I know for you and I think we're both similar in that we also need our alone time.
Yeah,
We
that
need our time,
extroverted introvert thing.
we need our time by ourselves to realign and recharge and you know, cleanse and, you know, all those self-care rituals that we do. And that is very important.
It is. Like I feel like, especially after I spend all day teaching, like I need at least 2 hours of alone time. I'm getting about an hour and a half, so it's pretty close. You know, because well, technically, I guess I have more, but like there's something about like once it gets dark, then I feel like I can finally relax. So it's been harder when it gets dark late, because then I feel like I can't relax till like later. But
That's really
yeah,
interesting.
I feel like I need a minimum of like 2 hours to really just like make sure like I'm clear and clean and I'm all myself again, and I didn't, you know, pick up something random from one of my students, or anything like that. And just to rest, like sleep is so important. And with all the like crazy energies right now, it's been really hard for a lot of people to sleep, or we're getting like really broken, choppy sleep, or we're having really intense dreams. And like, I just want to like, yeah, like sleep is so important for so many things. It's like, especially now, like it helps us stay grounded and centered and balanced. So we're not as easily triggered, and things like that.
Healing the
just like,
physical body, cognitive function, all that stuff.
yeah, because I
Yeah.
mean, if you don't sleep, you might say, oh, you know, I'm one of those people that only need like 4 to 6 hours. Well, eventually things shift and life gets pretty difficult. Uh,
Yeah.
I've gone through periods of time where I haven't slept for weeks or like a whole month, and yeah, it's not a fun place to be in.
Yeah.
So
And, it'll catch up with you eventually. If you think you can only get away on a few hours of sleep a night, like it's going to catch up with you eventually because your body physically just can't do that.
it's got to rest and digest and, you know, especially like your brain just needs time to be off, like a computer or, you know, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
The
You
more
need
you use it, like the
preparing.
quicker the battery drains,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to get a new battery, but you can't get a new brain.
No. Well, not yet anyway. I don't know.
Yeah. Not,
Um, yeah, I particularly have I've always kind of struggled with sleep, especially falling asleep. Because sometimes what happens to me, this is kind of crazy, and I've talked to some other people like this too, that the same thing happens, is there comes a point in the evening, it's usually later, like 10, 11, 12, or something like that, but all of a sudden I'll get all these downloads flooding in or all these ideas coming in, and then I'm like super creative and I want to write and I want to, and I don't want to try to make that go away because it's juicy stuff is coming out. So and that doesn't happen all the time. Just like occasionally that'll happen to me.
yeah, I feel like a lot of times, at least in my situation, like throughout the day, we're doing a bunch of other things, like working or cleaning or, you know, whatever, screwing around on Facebook. And then the nighttime comes and it's like all are like that part of ourself that is creative or like our spiritual selves, like, oh, now we can do all these things. And it's like, but the body needs to rest. And so yeah, because most of the nights I can't sleep, it's not necessarily because I'm like anxious about the next day or anything like that. It's like I start imagining this painting that I'm going to paint or something like that, like something creative trying to come through. And I'm like, couldn't you come through like earlier today? Do you have to come through at 3 in the morning?
Yeah, it's that and that creative piece is so important. I think that creating is self-care, like making art. And I mean, it can look like so many different ways. Singing, dancing, like anything where we're creating something new. Um, Especially for women.
Yes.
Very, very important. But for me, it's interesting. I feel like it's because I live in a very dense area currently. I'm about to move out in more into the country, which I'm super excited about, um, because I'm kind of over being in the city. It's just really dense. There's a lot of people here. And I think part of it is at night, they're asleep. And it's like the energies have finally kind of simmered down enough for me to hear myself. It
Yeah.
was like the time that I went out to Arizona to visit my friend Violet, who was on my first episode. And she at the time lived in the middle of nowhere. Like she had one neighbor.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just amazing like the things that come through and how it's like when it's truly not just silent but also energetically silent, and you don't have a million people around you.
Mhm.
It's like for me I can actually think and hear myself.
Yeah, that's interesting you said that because I do a lot of times, like I'll be so tired during the day. And then once like 10 o'clock comes, I'll get like this kind of mild burst of energy and almost like, oh, I don't want to go to bed quite yet. Like I want to stay up because then it's like that's when I feel like I can really just like, you know.
Yeah, I know. My favorite time of the day is when most other people are sleeping.
Mhm.
Like I like later in the evening or like super early in the morning, like as the sun's coming up and like, you know, if I have something I need to do, like just going out when there's less people out, I actually prefer that. So I'm very excited. I'm going to be going out to Helen, Georgia, which is a couple hours north of where I am now, but it's very, very rural out there. It's in the country. So, I'm going to be in the nature and I'm
Sounds
very
lovely.
excited about that.
Yeah, my goal is to eventually not be in my apartment and to have a house. I don't feel like I would be comfortable being in like the complete middle of nowhere, but somewhere like right on like the outskirts of town where it's country-ish. But I don't have to drive like super long distances to get to places, and have still have very few neighbors. Right now in my apartment, most of my neighbors are super calm and chill. The people above me have a little more energy, so like I can hear and feel them sometimes. But they have a similar schedule to me. Like they wake up about 6:30 and go to bed about 10:30. So like at least, that part of the day is usually pretty quiet. So that helps a lot. But yeah, eventually I don't want to, I'm kind of getting tired of sharing walls with people. Uh,
Yeah, I'm sharing walls right now too because I'm in a townhome right now, so I know what that's like. So, yeah, in a very dense city. So,
I'm luckily not in a super dense city, and the apartment complex I'm in is the quiet, like the most energetically quiet that I've been in. Like the wall, they did a decent job with the walls. They just didn't do like as good of a job with like this, putting padding or anything like between the
yeah,
ceiling and the floor.
yeah,
Like I don't hear anybody around me. I just hear above me. And I don't like, even though I hear them, like I don't feel their energy. So like I'm super grateful for that because I've lived in apartments before where the walls are so thin. It just almost feels like this breeze that just blows through the apartment of just like all the energy. And it's like, whoa, this feels really strange.
yeah. Like this is kind of violating. What is going on?
Right? Yeah, because like I remember I had just come back from like a retreat or something, and as soon as I walked into my apartment, I just felt this really weird breeze, and I was like, "Oh, I must have left the air on." It was like off, and that's when I was like, "Oh, this is like the energy just like coming right on through the walls." Just very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. We have to be a little bit more. Well, I won't say we because I'm not going to speak for everybody, but when I go out like into public and I'm just very aware and very conscious and I'm not like lingering around places. I'm like in the grocery store to get my stuff and out.
Yeah, I drive a little bit further to go to a grocery store that's a little
Yes.
calmer than the one that's like, I have one like 5 minutes from me. I went by there after work and I was just like, whoa, there were so many people there and like children. And I love children, don't get me wrong, but it was just like after a long day of work, like I just want to get in and get out. So like I will drive an extra like 10 minutes to go to this other grocery store because I know that it's just a little bit calmer there.
Yeah, yeah. That is the one thing with the online shopping that I really like is not having to go in the store shopping in person.
Yeah, I prefer to go in person, at least here, because they've messed up my order like twice when I did it. Like they picked the wrong brand of certain things, and I'm very picky about what brands I
Oh,
want
you
for
need like
food because I'm
store.
gluten free. It's yeah, so
Oh,
they
okay.
would just be lazy and see like pasta and just like throw some random pasta in there, or like say they didn't have my item but they did. They would even take a picture of it, but they were just looking in the wrong space for it, and you could see in the picture that it was here, but they were like looking down here. So I do prefer to just shop in person, but I
Yeah,
like the idea of if I needed to I could just like do it all online.
yeah. Maybe for like emergency situations.
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't done any of my grocery orders online. Just, I buy groceries in person and then mostly everything else. But it was interesting because, recently when I went to Costa Rica, one of the things that I learned if you're considering moving to Costa Rica is that it's very difficult to receive mail
Hmm.
there. and you can't go on Amazon and just click and get it. Like it, you don't
Mm.
have that. So
Yeah,
it's
we've been so Amazon, like it's been around for so long and it's getting more and more efficient. And it's like, I didn't, until you just said that, I didn't realize like, oh, I actually order stuff on Amazon like sometimes once a week.
yeah. So I was like, could I really go like an entire, 9 months without ordering anything on Amazon? It's a good question. So, it's kind of like a test. Like,
Yeah,
can I do that? Hmm.
you can.
But yeah,
I wonder how many times though you'll like go to do it and then be like, oh yeah, I can't.
totally. Yeah, well, I think it's the convenience factor for sure. It's like knowing that you can get something in a couple days and it's there. I know.
Yes.
So,
Get all of my like vitamins and supplements from there.
yeah, I think soon too. I mean, I've seen more and more businesses as far as like retail goes going online, and um malls are pretty much dying out. It's
Yeah, there a lot of them are closing down. Mhm.
because I remember like when I was a teenager, like going to the mall.
It's like the place to hang out. Even if you didn't buy anything, you walked around, you explored. Yeah.
Yeah, like going to see a movie at the mall and window shopping, and like that used to be so much fun.
Now I think, or like, instead of going to the mall, some of my friends, we would go just to like hang out at Walmart sometimes. Just walk around Walmart and do random things in Walmart and hang out in the Walmart parking lot for some reason. I don't know. So
Well, yeah, and then when I moved, because I moved down to Georgia when I was in the middle of high school, so then it became, oh, let's go to the Waffle House at 3 o'clock in the morning in our
mhm,
pajamas.
yeah, we would go to Steak and Shake. We would go clubbing, hitting up the clubs, dancing, because there was one really close to my college and it wasn't that crowded. And it was just like great because you actually could like dance and you weren't just like, and then we would go like eat really crappy food afterwards because it only tastes good at like 2 and 3 in the morning. If you have it during normal time, it doesn't taste good. Um, but then it started to get real crowded and we stopped going. But we had like a little routine once a week on like college night. We would go. It's like interesting
Oh,
how the
that sounds
times
like it
have
was a
changed.
blast.
Oh, it was so much fun. Um, and we would all just like go as a group of girls and like dance together, but like there would still be guys who would be like trying to like get us to dance like with them individually. I'm like, hey, you see that obviously like we don't care anything about you guys. We're having a girls night, like we're having a girls night out, like, but they would still try to like sneak in somehow, and we would just make it more like we would just dance on each other even more. I mean, sometimes we would dance with the guys who would come over, but like most of the time we didn't. And it was just funny to see how long they would try before they'd give up. Um,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Then
back in the day.
back in the day, well, I actually would get kind of like annoyed with that at the club, and so I had a few gay friends, and so I would just start going to the gay clubs with them, and it's like,
I went one night. It was great.
yeah, I don't even have to worry about it. I'm not even gonna get hit on. I don't even have to worry. It's fine.
Yes. They call, yeah, on Sunday nights, I think it was like gay night. And so I went one time with one of my friends and I was like, this is really cool. Like, yeah, but it's so interesting, like the things we like used to do. Like now I wouldn't go be around that many people in such a small space to dance
No,
ever.
no.
Like we were just talking about with even the concert. So it's like interesting how like things have shifted as we've gotten into adulthood. And I think there is something that happens like as you go through this process of awakening or whatever you want to call it, where it is almost like when we start to receive like I guess energy upgrades, we do become more sensitive in some ways but like less sensitive in other ways, and it's always like shifting and changing, and it's interesting to watch that evolve.
For sure. For sure. Always growing, always changing and evolving. I actually I have no desire to go to a club. I mean, I don't even I don't even know if you could pay me to do that.
Yeah,
Um, clubs or bars or anything like that. I have no desire whatsoever. Nope.
On my list. I'll do ecstatic dance.
Yeah,
But,
ecstatic
you know,
dance is great.
yeah. If it's like 30 or less, I'll do it.
Yeah. As long as there's space, space to move around. And
Mhm.
I went to, when I was in Costa Rica, we came across this silent disco. I don't know if you've ever been to one of those.
Mm-mm.
So basically you get like a headset that you put on, and everybody's wearing these headsets. And so that's how you listen to the music that's
Oh
played.
yeah, this show I watch on Netflix had a dance that was like that.
Yeah. So it's a silent disco because, if you're watching this from the outside, you just see people like dancing and stuff, but you don't hear any music because you got to have the headphones on to hear it. So it's, yeah, they're pretty fun. And sometimes even, they can have like multiple, I think the headsets take up to like 3 different channels, and it'll turn like red or green or blue, the light on the side, depending on what channel you're listening to.
Ah, fancy.
Um, so I was like all ready to dance, and I was like, oh yeah, like this is gonna be great. And I get there, and she starts with this opening ceremony, which was really beautiful, and a little bit of like a meditation, which was really beautiful. And it, got us like in our bodies. And and then she told us that she wants us to keep our eyes closed for as long as possible. And I was like, oh, it's like that. So it was more of like an inner journey, which was completely different than, I've never experienced something like that before with like a group.
That sounds really different, but really cool too. And
It
if
was.
you lived in an area where you were close to like neighbors who had noise complaints, then just do a silent one. Just go with the headphones,
Yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, I think they the woman who was hosting the event was part of this um little team. And they travel, and I think they just like take the headsets with them.
Oh, okay.
They probably own up to 20 or 30 of them, or however many, and then they just travel around with them. It's pretty cool.
Sounds very cool.
Yeah, I'm like, I want to host a silent disco.
Yeah. Silent disco party.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we'll see. Anything in person would be great at this
Yes.
point. So, um, so yeah, but that was fun. Um, I think if I had the option of hosting anything, it would be a women's retreat, um, where you're not coming to like pay $2,000 for the week. It's more of coming to share your own gifts with everyone, and having fire circles every night, and singing and dancing, and
Yes. All the things.
all the things,
All the fun retreat stuff.
making
Yes.
art, all that stuff. Yeah. So who knows, maybe one day it'll come to fruition.
Not maybe, it will. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, a matter of when. And I feel like New Mexico would be like a really beautiful place for it. Like New Mexico, or because Taos has a big spiritual community, or maybe out towards like Sedona in Arizona. But yeah, the desert is really magical for that stuff. The desert or the beach,
I like those places.
but it's got to be somewhere remote. Yeah, somewhere where we can be loud and make noise. And
There you go.
so
Yep.
yeah, if
Not
anybody's
not a silent retreat.
no, it's not a silent retreat. Yeah, so if anybody's watching this and that sounds good to you, I would love to know. Because a lot of people that I have talked to, a lot of women, they're like, sign me up, like let me know. And a friend of mine was like, I think it's just about you. You just have to put it together. You just have to have a time and a place, and invite people and it'll happen.
Yeah, that's the thing is it's, just coming up with your idea, putting it out there and trusting that at some point all the pieces will come into play with the location and the people and all of those things.
Yeah, trusting in it, or maybe it doesn't, work out, but I feel like we need to at least try. Like being in the feminine energy is great, but then sometimes we need to also, be into the masculine energies and actually take action in our dreams.
Everything in balance.
Okay, honey.
That's even possible.
Well,
Sometimes it feels like we're always trying to achieve balance in all things.
yes, we do our best. Okay, honey. Well, I think we're gonna wrap up here. Is there anything you would like to share with the audience? Anything you'd like to tell them about before we go?
Sure. So again, my name is Kristen and I'm a Reiki master teacher. But I'm taking kind of a break from energy work and from teaching energy work, and I'm focusing more on my YouTube channel, which is Dragonfly Heart Medicine, and that's the name of my Reiki business too. And I have a podcast on there, some meditations from a while ago. I think I even have a yoga class from a really long time ago as well. But I plan on adding more podcasts and meditations to that as well. I have a website, dragonflyheartmedicine.com. And I started an Etsy store this year. So I make smudge fans. So with the feathers and the handle to help, if you're working with sage or other herbs and you're burning them, just to kind of, to help direct the energy of the smoke where you want it to go. Used for personal reasons or ceremony, or it doesn't matter. So that's been something fun to create. And so Etsy store, also Dragonfly Heart Medicine. So I'm just trying to branch out there in a lot of different ways.
Excellent. Well, I can definitely link up to all of your websites and your store and your YouTube channel. I can put all of those links in the description so people can see those. And if anybody is interested in connecting with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Email is probably the best.
Okay, so we'll stick your email in there too. Okay, great.
Awesome. Thank you. This was really fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, yay! Thank you for coming on and being one of the early guests.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. I see things growing, and you'll have so many people watching. It's just we got to get that momentum going.
Absolutely. Okay, love. Well, thank you so much. And I'm going to go ahead and end our recording here. And yeah, thanks everybody for watching.